Hey everybody, welcome to the video. So we're breaking down it's a long name, AutoTrader EchoPark Automotive 500 at Texas Motor Speedway on Sunday, October 25th at around 3:30 p.m. Eastern. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. We only have a few races left in the NASCAR season, but we'll start this right back up again in early February, and then we'll do our long season once again, and hopefully without any breaks this time, with the couple month break we had back in March and April. And also, if you want to follow me over on social media, I'm at Pennell16 on Twitter, cpen16 over on IG, and if you want some more content over on Patreon, that is always much appreciated. I know there's a few races left, but if you still want some content, I do have everything in my spreadsheet available on there. I also have my article, my Discord chat, and all that fun stuff. You can look for yourself and see what's all listed, but everything you see in the spreadsheet in the bottom on the tabs, that's all available to whoever has access to the spreadsheet, and there's a bunch of stuff on there. So if you're interested, links down below for that. If not, that is fine. Let's just dive into today's preview of this race. And I actually don't think I have anything to say before I actually get into the preview. So, because there's not going to be a live stream, I'm going to start this back in February when everyone's excited about NASCAR again for the Daytona 500, and I guess we'll have the duels as well and the Clash. So, we'll have content for that, and then no DK contest until February as well. So yeah, let's just get into the preview. So like I said, long name, but this is the AutoTrader EchoPark Automotive 500 at Texas Motor Speedway. There's your outline of the track. It's just a 1.5 mile track, nothing super special about it. 1.5 miles in length, like I already said, and 334 laps. This is a very long race. Most of the 1.5 mile tracks we go to only have 267 laps. So this one's 334, which means this is a very, very long race. It's going to take quite a while for this race to finish, and we have about 250.5 Dominator points available to us, meaning, yeah, we're definitely going to want to get some Dominators in. Nearly 350 laps is quite a bit of laps. So if you don't have any Dominators in your lineup, you're not going to win money. You have to nail your Dominators, and this is definitely going to lead to multi-Dominator builds. If you play one Dominator, I mean, it's going to be a bit risky. Maybe if you just absolutely nail the place differential plays, and it's only one guy that dominates most of the race, which I guess maybe Kevin Harvick could do that, but I think more than likely we're going to see quite a few Dominators, and you're going to at least want two in all of your lineup. So I'm more than likely going to have a build in Fantasy Cruncher or a group setting in Fantasy Cruncher that's going to give me at least two Dominators per lineup. But that's pretty much it for the preview. Nothing crazy here, but we're going to focus on multi-Dominator builds, and obviously polish that out with place differential, finishing position, and cheap plays, and similar stuff to last week. It's just we have more laps, so a little bit more of an emphasis on Dominator points. And then with that being said, we'll get into the driver-by-driver breakdown. And we'll start up top here with Kevin Harvick at $11,000. He is on the pole. And I got to be honest, the pole setter this season, there's definitely been quite a few weeks where the pole setter just does not absolutely work out at all. Kevin Harvick has actually been a victim of that as well. But I'm going to be fully bought in here at Texas. Texas is Kevin Harvick's track. It's a very rare race at Texas where Kevin Harvick doesn't really run well. If you're looking at his numbers the past 6 races here, they're absolutely insane. Pretty much first in every single category. He actually might be first in every single category. I had to double check that. Okay, well, he's not going to be first in average finish because Tyler Reddick did finish second here, but it's only a 1 race sample size. So if you take that out, he is first in every single category here. Over 90 DraftKings points per race. An average finish of third, which is insane over a 6 race sample size. The best running position, the best average drive rating by quite a bit. 3 wins, 5 top 5s, nearly 80 laps led per race, and a little bit over 50 fast laps. Kevin Harvick is an absolute animal at Texas. He did well here earlier in the season. Did not end up winning that race. Austin Dillon actually ended up winning, which is, I know sounds a little bit weird, but I kind of like that with track position, but it still counts. But Harvick, I mean, he's won 50% of the races here the past couple of years, and I think we see probably some domination here from Kevin Harvick. I know anything can happen after the competition caution, and we've seen the pole sitter definitely struggle at times, but he's had the fastest car this season. He's crushing it at 1.5s. He's crushing it at this track type. If you look at the numbers, 1.5 mile tracks this season, really the only guy that's been better than Kevin Harvick has been Ryan Blaney, and I have a lot of interest in Ryan Blaney, and you can actually pair those guys up, and they're actually a perfect pairing because Harvick's on the pole, and he could lead the majority of the early portion of this race. Then Ryan Blaney's rating 10th. You get a little bit of PD upside. He could definitely dominate at some point as well, and I actually think one of those two guys ends up winning this race. I mean, yeah, Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Truex definitely have chances, so Joey Logano, Keselowski, and maybe even Kyle Busch. But Blaney and Kevin Harvick have been pretty much the most dominant cars at the 1.5 mile tracks this season, with some other guys as well. But Harvick, I mean, he's first in average green flag speed, and he's been on fire, and he's averaging the most laps led at these China tracks. Not the most fast laps, but he's still top 5 in that category. And only 1 win, but 5 top 5s, 9 top 10s. It's going to be tough to beat Kevin Harvick on the pole at one of his best tracks in the entire series. So yeah, I like Kevin Harvick. I know he's a bit expensive, but we can fit him in for sure. And I'd probably expect him to be one of the, if not the highest owned driver on this slate. He might not be the highest owned, but he's definitely going to be up there for sure. Because a lot of people just look at track history, and which I do too, but I mean, he's just absolute animal in the track history department, and you can back him up in other categories as well in terms of average green flag speed, how they've done so far this season, and blah, 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 blah. So you guys get it. Kevin Harvick is a pretty good play. Denny Hamlin, 10,800, starting 7th. I like him quite a bit. Now, his numbers at Texas aren't going to look that great. He has had some incidents here which are going to skew his stats, like only 23 DraftKings points per race. But he is good here. He has 22.2 laps led per race. He even has a win and 2 top 5. So things can happen. I mean, he's not gonna be a bad driver here. I mean, unless he gets into a wreck, but we can't project a wreck, especially at a 1.5 mile track. So I'll definitely have some interest in Denny Hamlin. I mean, Harvick and Hamlin have been the 2 top cars all season long. Now, Hamlin hasn't been a top 2 car at the 1.5 mile tracks this season, just overall, but he's still been very strong at the 1.5s. Looking at his numbers this season at them, he actually has 2 wins and 5 top 5s, but I'm just talking in terms of average DraftKings points per race, because which is kind of what we care the most about. But he's still been very good in that department, 52.5 DraftKings points per race. He's only behind Ryan Blaney and Kevin Harvick, so he's definitely been someone you want. The running position's actually the worst of all these drivers, and actually in the next tier as well. But again, things can happen which ruin your day, and I'm not going to hold Denny Hamlin fault to that. So yeah, certainly will be interested here. He actually has the second most laps led at 1.5 mile tracks this season, and not the most fast laps, but he's definitely going to be a threat here. And I'll definitely have some Denny Hamlin, especially starting 7th. You can even pair him up with Kevin Harvick, because $10,800 for Denny Hamlin's not that bad. And you can, I mean, we've seen some weeks where these guys are closer to 12,000, and with Hamlin being below 11K and Kevin Harvick only being 11,000, it shouldn't be hard to fit multi-dominator builds this weekend, which I'm glad DraftKings did it that way to make it a little bit easier to play our dominators. Chase Elliott, 10,500. He also hasn't had the best of luck at Texas. I mean, he doesn't even have a top 5 for the past 6 races. Obviously, no wins and only 2 top 10s. Consistently been in the top 15, but hasn't really been much of a lap leader here. And overall, the numbers aren't super strong. But for how well he's ran at the 1.5 mile tracks this season, I'm going to have some interest. I'm not going to full fade the guy, because he's been pretty good at these. I believe he's second in average green flag speed at the 1.5 mile tracks this season. I have that on my spreadsheet, the green flag speed chart. I have that for every single race of where these guys are ranked, and also have it sorted by things like 1.5 mile tracks, large ovals, low tire wear tracks, certain tire combinations. That is all on there. That's something I use heavily each and every single week, especially without having practice. But I do like Elliott. I mean, if you're looking at his numbers this season at these track types, he's been one of the best drivers. Nearly 50 DraftKings points per race, one of the best average running positions, a win, 3 top 5s, some of the most fast laps, and some of the most laps led. So Chase Elliott, he's more of a tournament play for me, just because he hasn't really shown domination at Texas, but I'm kind of relying more on how they've done this season, especially with no practice, and Chase Elliott's definitely been one of the top cars, and I'll certainly have some interest in him in tournaments. I don't think I'd go there in cash games. I think in cash games you're probably just sitting on like Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick. Those are the guys I'm kind of most confident in being able to dominate this race. Then you can throw in tournament guys like Truex, Chase Elliott, Logano, Keselowski, Bowman. Or I kind of forgot about Kyle Busch here at $9,300. So you can throw Kyle Busch in the cash game category as well, because that's just a little bit too cheap for someone like Kyle Busch at this kind of track that he's ran very well at. Even though I know he hasn't been super good this year, but he's getting good finishes. Before I get ahead of myself, let's talk about Truex first. So he's starting 6th at $10,200. I like this price point, and he has had some decent races at Texas, but he only has 1 top 5 here the past 6 races. But anytime we go to a 1.5 mile track, I will have some interest in Martin Truex Jr. Now, the race here earlier this season, he had a bad finish, but keep in mind he had one of the better cars on the track, and he actually did lead 15 laps in that race, but he ended up getting wrecked. I forget exactly what happened. I want to say Jimmy Johnson was involved, but I can't remember. But I was overweight on Truex, and I was having a pretty good day because I had a ton of Ryan Blaney. If you guys don't remember, Ryan Blaney dominated that race. Had a ton of Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick, and they both finished 1-2, I think. But Truex got into an incident, and then he actually toughed it out and continued running. But, I mean, his day was shot, so kind of killed his numbers. But Truex, I mean, 1.5 mile tracks are his bread and butter. It's his best track type. Looking at his numbers this season at them, been very strong. He's yet to win, but he's actually third in fast laps, in 4 top 5s, 7 top 10s, and some overall very strong numbers. Just hasn't been able to get that win. And it would not surprise me if it came on Sunday, because, I mean, I feel like he should be able to win at one this season, and this will be his last chance, because we have Martinsville and Phoenix coming up, which those are two Martinsville he runs very well at, so I expect Truex to make a splash definitely next weekend at Martinsville. But I like Truex here, more of a tournament option, but I like that price point. And starting 6, you get a little bit of a cushion there of PD upside. And then getting into one of my favorite plays on the slate, we have Ryan Blaney at $10,000. He's starting 10th. I almost said my favorite play, but I really like Kyle Busch running 9th, and I like Kevin Harvick and on the poll as well. So he's right up there with them. But love Ryan Blaney. I can't say anything bad about him at a 1.5 mile track. He absolutely dominated Texas earlier this season. I think he led around 150 laps, if I remember correctly. Had pretty much one of the best cars. I believe he was first in average green flag speed. I had to double check that, but he was definitely way up there. He's first in average green flag speed at these track types this season. Large ovals, low tire wear, 1.5 mile tracks. This tire combination, left side, right side tires, whatever it is, Ryan Blaney is top of the charts in pretty much everything. And if you look at his numbers at 1.5 mile tracks, he's nearly first in every single category, I believe besides one, or I guess the win category as well. But I mean, he's crushing it. The most DraftKings points per race. Average finish is 7.2, which is only behind Barrett Keselowski, so that's the one category. He's not leading in besides the wins and the top 5s or whatever. Best average running position, the best driver rating, and some of the most laps led, and actually the most fast laps as well. So love Ryan Blaney. He's crushing it in these track types. Starting 10th, a little bit of PD upside, and he's definitely going to be one of my highest owned drivers on this slate. I have a lot of confidence from Ryan Blaney here at $10,000, and he's not that hard to fit in as well, and he makes a nice fit with someone that's starting up closer to the front, like Kevin Harvick, maybe like a Joey Logano, Keselowski, or even a Chase Elliott. And then going down to the 9K range, we have Joey Logano at $9,800. He is starting 2nd. Now, I told you guys last week I wasn't super in love with Joey Logano, but I'm not fading the guy just because I like that price point. And Logano and Keselowski, those guys are sneaky. They always find a way to just be there in the right spot at the end, and they make some noise, and that's exactly what Joey Logano did. Now, last week's finish was quite controversial. I know a lot of people were giving it heat on Twitter. I know Jeff Gluck's was it a good race pool, did not perform well, and that's just because people were very upset about the aero package, because Kevin Harvick, he clearly had the better car. And look, I'm not going to complain here, so maybe I'm biased because Joey Logano did win me a GPP last weekend, so maybe I'm being a little biased here. Or not, I wasn't even trying to make a statement. I had something else in my head when I was saying that. But anyway, Kevin Harvick clearly had the better car, but he just could not pass Joey Logano. Okay, I know what I was going to say now, sounding biased. But I actually kind of liked that ending because it was kind of fun to see a close race, because if Kevin Harvick got around Joey Logano, it was goodbye and it was not going to be an exciting finish. So maybe I sound biased because I had Joey Logano, I needed him to win the race. But I actually thought it was a pretty good finish, although I realized Kevin Harvick easily had the better car than Joey Logano, but Logano was having a perfect race. He was just hitting his marks, and he was blocking like a madman for sure. But I forgot I was going with that, but I just wanted to mention it. But I like the price on Logano, and he actually did very well here in the Texas race earlier this season. And this is a pretty good track for him. So I like Logano in tournaments. And keep in mind, Harvick, I would expect him to be super heavy chalk. And if there's an off chance Joey Logano gets in front of him in the beginning and he can do what he did last time where Kevin Harvick just cannot pass him and Logano leads a bunch of laps, he's probably a pretty good tournament option starting 2nd. So I'll have some interest in Logano. Definitely not fading the guy. I like that price point. And you could even play Harvick and Logano together. I mean, it's not like just because they're starting 1-2 doesn't mean they can't both lead laps. Like last time we were at Texas, I believe it was Almirola in the pole and Ryan Blaney starting 2nd. Both those guys did very well. Both of those guys led laps. So it's not like just because you're starting 1st and 2nd, you can't both lead laps. Now, keep in mind, those guys were much cheaper, so it was easier to do, and it felt a little bit better, and you could still use Kevin Harvick in those lineups. It's a little tougher to do a 9,800 guy and 11,000 guy, but it can still work out. But looking at Logano's numbers, I mean, average finish is 6.7, which is very good. Running position of 8.3. Hasn't won here recently, but 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s. He's been a lap leader, so yeah, I like Joey Logano. And he's actually 2nd in average green flag speed this season at the low tire wear 1.5 mile tracks, so. And he's also got 2 wins as well. So, yeah, I like Logano. He's a solid option. It's not my favorite option, but definitely like him in tournaments. Keselowski, 9,600. I feel like he's a bit cheap here. No, I think this might just be due to how poor he's ran at Texas recently. Only 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s. Average finish of 22.3 and rank position of 20.6. But again, incidents can happen. And Keselowski is not a 20th place driver. He is a guy that should contend for a top 5 at nearly every single track he's in. So at only $9,600, he's someone I like for tournaments. He ran well last weekend, was kind of there pretty much all day long. He never was really a threat to dominate. But he definitely had a really strong car, and I could see a similar scenario here. And it's just mainly a price play. I mean, if you can get, you could even pair Logano and Keselowski together, and you could use Ryan Blaney. If you guys want to go full team Penske for some reason, I'm not going on my way to do that. Just crept in my mind. You could certainly do it. I mean, you can make those your 3 dominators and just fill in with some other guys. It's a way to go in tournaments, but not something I'm like actually trying to do. It's just something that kept in my mind there. But I will say Keselowski's numbers at Texas have not been good, but so far this season at these types of tracks, he's been very consistent. I mean, 48 DraftKings points per race, an average finish of 7.1, has a win, 3 top 5s and 9 top 10s. Although something I think is pretty interesting is that Keselowski has not made an optimal lineup this year at the 1.5 mile tracks. I mean, I could double check that, but last time I checked, he was not in one of the optimal lineups. I do have that on my spreadsheet. And the one time he did win, he barely had any laps. He just won at the end of the race, and I believe that's when Chase Elliott pit at Charlotte. So he didn't leave enough laps to even be optimal at his price point. But I do like him here, $9,600. I think it's a bit too cheap, and should definitely be a strong play. I'll turn my email off. I think my camera's blurry now. Okay, I think that's fixed. So anyway, let's move on from Keselowski, and we'll get into a place differential play in Jimmie Johnson here at $9,400. He is starting 26. Do I think he's a good play? Yes. Is it going to be hard to fit him in on a track where I prefer dominators? Yes. Like, I'd rather play Kyle Busch here. I mean, he's got top 5 potential. He has dominator potential. Alex Bowman's got dominator potential and top 5 potential. Meanwhile, Jimmie Johnson, he hasn't really ran that well here recently at Texas. Only 2 top 20 finishes. And Jimmie Johnson, I like him, but he's just one of those guys that tends to just have bad things happen to him the past couple of years. And that's a lot of price to play just for a PD play at a track where I want dominators due to there being 334 laps. So Johnson, he's going to project well starting 26 because he should contend for a top 15, top 10 finish, but he definitely doesn't have a ceiling that guys like Blaney have, Logano, Keselowski. Like, medium projection, Jimmie Johnson starting 26. He's going to grade out pretty well compared to someone like Keselowski starting 3rd, but he does not have that dominator potential that they do. I mean, sometimes Jimmie Johnson's car just looks really good, and he could potentially have speed that get him up front, but it's not something you should really expect on a weekly basis. So I'll have probably some Jimmie Johnson, but I'll definitely be heavier on the dominators, and I'd feel more inclined to play Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman over Johnson just because of their ceiling, but I'll probably be similar on my Bowman Johnson exposure. But TBT on that. This is just my first reactions to the price tags in the starting positions, but that's a lot of play. That's a lot of pay for a PD play at a track with a lot of laps. But if you're looking at his numbers this season at 1.5s, they haven't been that bad. I mean, average running position of 16th, which is okay. Average finish of 15.9, but 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 top 15s. I just think he might have a hard time being optimal at his price point for sure. But Kyle Busch, $9,300, he's starting 9th. He had a pretty strong race last week, and I mean, he was the top 5 contender for the majority of that race, and he's been pretty good at Texas. And he's averaging nearly 60 DraftKings points per race here. Has a win recently, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, a lot of laps led, a lot of fast laps. We know the same old thing with Kyle Busch. He's pretty much good at every single track we go at. It's just this season without practice, he has definitely not performed up to expectations. He has yet to win a race, which would be the first time in, I think, forever. And if we're looking at his numbers this season at the 1.5s, he's getting good finishes. He's got 4 top 5s, which is tied with Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex, and right behind Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick. And if you're looking at the large ovals this season, he's actually tied for the most top 5s with Kevin Harvick. So he's not running awful. He's just not really dominating. He's not really leading laps. Or same thing. He's not really getting wins, is what I meant to say. But starting 9th at only $9,300, that's just a bit too cheap here. So I'll definitely have some Kyle Busch exposure for sure. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be like yet, but I think there's a good chance I'll have a decent amount of Kyle Busch. He should be a top 5 contender here, and by the off chance he gets up front, leads laps, or picks up some fast laps, and then gets a top 5 finish, he should be a pretty solid, safe play. Now, Alex doesn't feel good saying safe play with Kyle Busch, but the price kind of makes it a little bit safe. Alex Bowman, $9,100, he's starting 5th. He was actually optimal last week. And he's definitely had some speed lately. He was great early on the season, kind of struggled for quite some stretch, but he's looking pretty good, and he's been good at these tracks this season, so I'm willing to give Bowman another chance here, and he did well for me last week, and if you're looking at his numbers this season at these track types, some of the most laps led, good amount of fast laps, 2 top 5 finishes, one of the better average running positions of 9.4, and it's kind of evident how unlucky he's getting with his average finish of 16th compared to his good average running position. I mean, bad things have been happening to Alex Bowman, but he's been running pretty strong lately, and I definitely like him in tournaments. Now, his price has come up to $9,100, so it's not easy to fit him in like he was. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but he was in that 7K range. I think there was one race, I might be wrong, but he was like 73 or 74, 7,500. That was, I wish that's what it was right now, but $9,100, it's a bit steep, so it's kind of making him a staple of your lineup, but I like him in tournaments. I mean, there's a chance he could get up front and dominate, and if he does that, $9,100, probably looking pretty good. I don't think he's going to be that high owned, so he's definitely a tournament play, but I think he's a worthy tournament play. Then dropping down to Eric Jones, we have 8,900, and just by looking at the guys that are below him and above him, I do think Alex Bowman will probably be pretty low owned because I think everyone's going to rather play Eric Jones. He's great at Texas. Clint Boyer is actually even decent at Texas. Kurt Busch is good at Texas. Busch is above him, Johnson. So I think Bowman definitely should be decently low owned, and I think he can make a splash for sure. But Eric Jones, 8,900, he is starting 17. Just announced he's going to be driving the 4-3 car next year, which is going to be pretty interesting. I wonder how he'll do in that. I wonder if he'll be able to get any top 10 finishes in there. It's not that great of equipment, but I'm just curious to see what Eric Jones can do because I think he's a good driver. I mean, he's definitely shown plenty of upside in the 20 car, but definitely a downgrade in equipment for Eric Jones, unfortunately, which sucks because I do like Eric Jones quite a bit, and you guys know that. But looking at his numbers at Texas, pretty darn good. Average finish of 6.3, running position of 8.9. He's got 3 top 5 finishes here, and he's actually finished inside the top 10 in 100% of the last 6 races. So I think there's a decent chance Eric Jones is going to pick up some place differential here and more than likely get a high finishing position as well. Does have top 5 upside here. He's actually been a lap leader before, and overall some very strong numbers at Texas. So starting 17th, I definitely have interest in Eric Jones, and I think he's a pretty strong play on this slate. Should grade out pretty well in projections. Haven't ran mine yet, so I'll get to do those, but I'll have those up later today if you guys are watching this on Friday. Clint Boyer, 8,700. He's starting 21st. He has not ran that well with the 1.5 mile tracks this season, but Texas is a good one for him. But looking at these numbers, it is quite concerning. He has 0 top 5s, which kind of expected from someone like Clint Boyer. 0 wins, obviously. 0 top 10s, though. You'd think he'd have like a couple thrown in there, and everyone else in his price range has had some top 10s here. Not here exactly, but at these types of tracks this season, Clint Boyer's not made the top 10 at all, although he does have 6 top 15 finishes, and starting 21st, I think he's going to be a 10th to 15th place car. You got slight top 10 potential looking at his numbers at Texas. Has 1 top 10, 2 top 15, or 2 top 10s, and 4 top 15. So I think he's going to finish anywhere from 10th to 15th. But starting 21st, it's not the worst play in the world. I wish he was a bit cheaper, but I think he's a fine play. Nothing more than a fine play. I'm not expecting fireworks. I'm not expecting him to suck. I think he's a fine play. Kurt Busch at 8,500. He's starting 8th. He's a tournament play just because I think he's going to finish inside the top 10. But he's not really someone I can expect to dominate, although he's ran very well at Texas, averaging nearly 46 Draftkings points per race, average finish of 8.2, running position of 8, which I believe is second best, only behind, Kevin Harvick. Really good drive rating, no wins or no top 5s recently, but 6 top 10s, and that's tied with Eric Jones and Kevin Harvick for the most. So Kurt Busch has been very consistent here. He's actually been very consistent on the season at 1.5. His average finish at 12.2. 7 top 10 finishes, 3 top 5s, and he actually did get that win at Las Vegas. Bit lucky, sure, but he did very well in those restarts, so you got to give him credit. So Kurt Busch, tournament play for me, but $8,500, I think it's definitely worth some exposure for him for sure. William Byron, 8,300. He's starting 11th. Only has 5 races here. He does have 2 top 10 finishes, and he's finished in the top 20 all but 1 time. But man, that's a tough spot for him. I really can't see him improving too much upon his starting position. I think more than likely he's going to end up moving back. Looking at his numbers this season at these types of tracks, average running position of 15.1. No top 5s, does have 3 top 10s and 5 top 15s, but tournament play only for me. I mean, he's probably going to finish anywhere from 10th to 15th, which starting 11th, bit of a tough play there, but he'll definitely be overlooked, so I think a little bit different in tournaments. But someone I like quite a bit here, probably one of the favorite mid-range plays. I mean, I love Eric Jones, but I like Eric Jones a lot at $8,100. He was very good at the first Texas race here. He did lead some laps, and what was the issue with him? Was it because he didn't have brakes? I remember the race started. I had a lot of Eric Almirola was overweight on him, and then they reported that he had no brakes, and he was going to end up having him coming down pit road. Fortunately, he did not come down pit road, and he actually had a pretty strong race. Got quite a bit of fast laps, got a lot of laps led. He actually passed Kevin Harvick legitly. Is that a word? Legitly? I don't know. But he actually passed Kevin Harvick for real on the track. It wasn't like any issue happened. He just went right past him. He looked very, very good. And starting 13th, I think he's a pretty strong play. He's good here. He has a top 5, 4 top 10 finishes, 5 top 15s, average running position of 12.3, which I know is only one spot above his qualifying spot, but he definitely has top 10 potential here. And I like what I've seen from Eric Almirola at these types of tracks this season for the most part. So I like him quite a bit, $8,100. I think he's a very strong finishing position play. Tyler Reddick, 7,900. He is starting 19th. Yeah, if you're looking at those numbers, it's going to look pretty good. Again, you kind of lucked out when they stayed out with Austin Dillon, but still it counts, and they held their own at the end. He finished second, had 70 DraftKings points. I was very high on Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon that day, so it was a good day for me, I think, because I was high on Ryan Blaney. I can't imagine I did that poor. Can't remember exactly how Texas went, but I liked Almirola. I liked Harvick. I liked Reddick. I liked Austin Dillon, so it had to be good. I can't remember exactly, though. But I like him once again. A lot of agains there, but he's been pretty well at these 1.5 mile tracks this year. 2 top 5 finishes, 4 top 10s, 6 top 15s, averaging nearly 40 DraftKings points per race, and average running position of 15. And I guess I don't love the price point, but it's in the mid-range, and he started 19th, which he should improve upon. So Tyler Reddick, I am a fan of him this weekend. MDB, 7,700. He is starting 14th. I believe he was optimal last week as well. And if we look at his numbers at Texas, it's nothing pretty. He only has 1 top 15 finish and 3 top 20s. Keep in mind he's only got 1 race here and good equipment. So I think he's a fine tournament option starting 14th. It's just not going to get me too excited for where he's starting. He's probably going to finish close to where he starts. Average running position of 13.6. Does have 3 top 5 finishes, which is pretty good. 3 top 10s and 6 top 15s, but just a tournament play for me. Just a tournament play. But I'm going to have interest in all these guys right here just in tournaments because we're going to be forced to play some of these guys in the 7K range. We can't just play everybody 8K and up. So, I mean, Reddick, MDB, Dillon, Custer, Christopher Bell, Matt Kenseth, these guys are all in play. Although Kenseth's more of a cash game option, especially where he's starting in 32nd. But Austin Dillon, 7,500, he's starting 12th. He is the most recent winner here at Texas, actually, which is crazy to say, but it happened. But he's been pretty good at Texas. He's been pretty good at the 1.5 mile tracks. Average finish of 12.8 here. Obviously has the win with a top 5, 2 top 10s, and 5 top 15s. Looking at these numbers so far this season, a top 5, 2 top 10s, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 8 top 15s with an average finish of 12.9. More than likely he's going to finish close to where he starts, but there's always top 10 potential there. And Austin Dillon has been running very well at these track types so far this season, so I like him in tournaments. Custer, he's another fine tournament play. Sorry, I sound like a broken record with all of these guys, but these guys are all fine in tournaments from Kurt Busch down below for quite some time, probably until we hit someone like Ryan Newman, who's fine for cash games, and Matt Kenseth. But Cole Custer, 7,300, he's starting 16th. He has 1 race here, and he finished 39th. We're not going to hold that against him. Things happen. If we're looking at his numbers at the 1.5s this season overall, he actually has a win. I believe that was at Kentucky, if I remember correctly. He has a top 5 finish, 2 top 10s, 4 top 15s, and 8 top 20s. He's got top 15 potential here. I think he probably is going to end up finishing close to where he starts, but there's not a ton of options in the 7K range that are going to get me too excited. So tournament option, he does have top 10 potential. He's in good equipment. It's just I don't really expect it. Christopher Bell, kind of the same exact thing can be said for Christopher Bell. Only has 1 race here. He finished 21st, which was for 35 DraftKings points because he started way in the back. Looking at his numbers this season at these tracks, no top 5s, but 4 top 10s, which is pretty good. 4 top 15s and 5 top 20s, running position of 18.1. Problem is he's starting 15th. Again, he's probably going to finish around here. So you can take a shot in tournaments hoping he just cracks the top 10, but I just don't think it's a super likely scenario. Matt Kenseth at $7,100. He's starting 32nd. I hate trusting Matt Kenseth. I had quite a bit of him last week. I think I had around 40%, which is on par with the field. So even though he did crash out, didn't really hurt me much because it was just kind of like an even blow for me. Past 2 races at Texas have been good for him, averaging 64 DraftKings points per race with an average finish of 11th. And he finished 18th here earlier in the season. If he can get a top 20 at starting 32nd at $700, yeah, you can sign me up for that. Now, we can't really use his recent track history here because, again, things have changed for the most part. Looking at his numbers this season of these track types, average finish of 23.1, running position of 23.4, and only 4 top 20 finishes. But starting 32nd, it's going to make him a pretty safe play, as scary as that sounds. And speaking of guys like the wreck, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 6,900, starting 22nd. Hasn't been a super good track for him. Only 2 top 15 finishes recently. Average finish of 23.7. Average rank position of 18.8. The price point's fine. If you're looking at his numbers this season at these track types, he does have 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, and 3 top 15s. He's probably going to improve a little bit on his starting position, but I mean, I don't love it. I mean, I'll probably have to sprinkle him in just a little bit, but I don't think he's going to be that high owned. I really don't think you have to have high ownership on Ricky Stenhouse here. Chris Buescher, 6,800. He's starting 20th. I think he's an interesting option. He has run pretty well at Texas. 4 top 20 finishes with a top 15. Average finish of 19.7, which I know is only one spot higher than his average starting position, or not his average starting position, his qualifying position, but I think it's fine for tournaments. He's shown top 20 potential here and even top 15 potential. And at these track types this year, he's not running that bad. 5 top 20s, 3 top 15s, and even a top 10. So yeah, Chris Buescher's a fine tournament option, but I wouldn't go any farther than that. Bubba Wallace, 6,600, starting 18th. Kind of a similar scenario for him. Although he does have a top 10 here, 2 top 15s and 2 top 20s. But again, these guys are kind of starting where they're going to finish. And it's kind of the way it's going to go with the formula. So you're never really going to get any of these amazing PD plays unless they wreck the week before that. But Bubba's okay. It's just, that's fine. I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the new with the new team with Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan next year. I'm wondering how much speed that car is going to have. It'd be kind of cool to, I don't know, it's going to be kind of cool to see. For sure, I'm excited for that. One of the things I'm more excited for next season. Ryan Newman, 6,400, starting 25th. Okay, so this is the first time in a while I think I can say that this is probably a pretty solid cash game play. Like, I know you can say it for Kenseth, but kind of hate playing Kenseth this season. But Newman, I feel pretty good about this one. He's been good at Texas. Average finish 17.3. He's got 3 top 15s, 5 top 20s. He's your 15th to 20th place car, but that's fine enough for me at $6,400. That's all you really need to do. Looking at his numbers this season, it's an average finish of 20.4, 5 top 20s, and 3 top 15s, kind of on par with what he's done in Texas recently. So Ryan Newman, I do like him. He's probably safe for cash games. John Hunter Nemechek, 6,300, starting 24th. Liked him a lot last week, starting in the 30s, starting 24th. Pushing it a little bit there, Nemechek. You're pushing it. He's got top 20 potential for sure. He's got 6 top 20s in the season, which is actually more than Ryan Newman. But I think he's best used as a tournament play because we know he's going to wreck at some point every single week. It just happens. I don't think he wrecked last week, though, but the guy loves to wreck. 2 races here, average finish of 21.5, but nothing too crazy there. Michael McDowell. I do like Michael McDowell a lot. I think you can play him in pretty much any format. Not starting at 6,100. He is 6,100, starting 23rd. I know it's a bit up there. Maybe he's better suited for tournaments because I guess... Okay, let's say Michael McDowell is better for tournaments. Probably not cash games. But he's ran well at Texas. He's got 3 top 15 finishes here recently. That's pretty good for a guy like Michael McDowell. Average finish inside the top 20. Looking at his numbers this season, 5 top 20s at these tracks, 2 top 15s. If looking at what he did earlier this season at Texas, he actually finished 15th. So I do like Michael McDowell. I think he's one of the better value plays. Ryan Preece at 5,900. I hate playing Ryan Preece. He hasn't been that great at Texas. Average running position at 23.2. Looking at his numbers this season at these track types, only 1 top 20 finish, but I think he should contend for a top 25 here. And at 5,900, I think it's worthy of just sprinkle him in just to mix and match your cheap guys. Ty Dillon, 2,700. I wish it was 2,700. 5,800, starting 27th. I think it's all right. He's not great at Texas. He's got a top 15, though, and 2 top 20s, but he's just you're just mixing and matching these guys. Like Preece, Dillon, LaJoie, Suarez, just kind of mix and match and just hope one of them don't die, and that's what my recommendation would be for these guys. Nothing's going to stand out too much. Corey LaJoie, starting 28th. He's actually been decent at the low tire wear 1.5 mile tracks this season. He's got 3 top 20 finishes, which is actually pretty good. So LaJoie, Ty Dillon, Ryan Preece, I think all these guys are kind of the same. They're all starting right near each other, and they should contend for a top 25 finish. Daniel Suarez, if you're looking at racing track history, it's going to look great, but keep in mind he's in the lawnmower now, so I don't think I've used that lawnmower joke in a while. But he might move up a spot or two, but outside of that, he's got an average running position of, I think, like 29.7 this year, so you can't really expect much from Suarez. And after Suarez, I don't think you can touch Smithley, Poole, Yaley, Half, Fincham, Gase. These guys just don't make optimal lineups. Like I've showed you guys before, but the optimal lineup leaderboard this season, these guys outside of a super speedway, they do not make optimal lineups. And especially with the super long race at Texas, that means there's just more room for them to have engine issues or something go out for them. So I feel pretty comfortable avoiding these guys and trying to target guys that can at least finish the race and try to finish the race on the lead lap or close to it. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you made it all the way through, please let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing who makes it all the way through. You guys are troopers for sure. Leave a like on the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'd be surprised if anyone new is watching this video. I don't think many new people are watching NASCAR videos in late October. But yeah, it's going to be it, guys. I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys enjoy the race on Sunday. Enjoy football. If you want to check out the football content, do that. If you want to sign up on Patreon, even though there's not many races left, you can support me over there as well if you feel like you need to, or if you feel like you want to. I do appreciate it. But I'm going to head out of here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and see you guys in the next one.